the channel. Welcome to the stream. Welcome to the first ever plane shift. This series is all about shifting from the plane of tabletop RPGs to the plane of other game worlds. And the world we're going to be talking about today is fantasy sports. It is my pleasure to introduce fantasy sports expert, the man, the myth, the legend himself, Nic Yonter. Nick, how are you doing today, man?
Oh my goodness, I'm doing fantastic. Really buttering me up there with the expert. I love to hear that. Actually, I had somebody that reached out to me when I was promoting this little gig and saying what makes an expert in fantasy. I think he was dogging it, but then I said, a couple championships. That's what makes it. And he's like, oh, all right, fair ball.
Absolutely. Hey, so on that topic, this is something I've never asked you, and I actually was meaning to ask you this yesterday. How many fantasy championships have you won?
I think I went over all that whenever I had an Excel spreadsheet with it, but I don't have Excel on my computer anymore. So I had to go a little bit off of memory. But I know last year was a big year for me for fantasy football. I won 3 championships last year, which is my best year ever. 3 championships, 3 third place, and 3 championships, 1 second place, 3 third places. So I got top 3 in all 7 of my leagues. First year I've ever done that.
And that was just last year.
Yes, that was this last year. Last year was a big year. But I think football overall, I'm approaching double digits. I think I have 9 or 10 championships in football. I have 4 in baseball, and I have 2 in basketball.
That's ridiculous. I don't have near those accolades, that's why you're on the show today, Nick. Honestly, if I was gonna make a stream about being awesome at fantasy sports, and I was awesome at fantasy sports myself, I would have just made a video about it, right? But I'm not, so that's
hey guys, this is me. This is me talking about me being great.
You're a fantasy sports expert, but would you say baseball is your favorite fantasy sport?
Yes, baseball is without doubt my favorite fantasy sport. I actually probably have more success over the long haul over football, but I care more about winning whenever it comes to baseball. And I feel like I always field a really, really good team. I love baseball mostly just because of the prospects. And if I have a league that focuses on that, then that really makes me extremely happy. And so I would say baseball definitely my favorite fantasy sport.
Okay, perfect. You have this wealth of knowledge about baseball and fantasy baseball and prospects. And so I mean you do. Do you think that's part of why you're so successful in fantasy baseball, or is it other things?
Well, a lot of it's luck. As much as I do strive to be really good at fantasy sports, you got to get lucky a lot of times, like guys not getting injured, opportunities happening. But a couple things that I really try to focus on whenever I'm building teams is just talent. A lot of times, especially in shorter times, in shorter leagues, especially season-long leagues, people are like, "Oh, this guy's really talented, but he's like blocked." I hate that term. It's somebody's blocked by somebody. If you're good enough, you're gonna play. Like they're gonna find a spot for you. It happens all the time. There's an injury that happens or a trade that happens. Like if you're good enough to play in any sport, baseball, football, whatever, they're going to find a spot for you. So if you're a believer in a talent, if you see somebody that you really like, I like to use the eye test a lot. I have this thing for the way the ball sounds off the bat. If I watch film on a guy, a minor league guy, and it has a certain sound, I'm all over that. Obviously the biggest example I have is Ronald Acuna. Whenever he was in Double-A, I heard him hit the ball, and I stopped the video right there. And I was like, "Yeah, I'm drafting him."
Do you think like league management and waiver wires? Do you think that can make up for a bad draft, or do you think if you draft
no, absolutely,
okay,
no, absolutely. So, I think I would say 45% of your season, I think, is the draft. And I would say another probably 30% is the waiver wire, and then the additional 25% is just luck. But you have the waiver wire is super important. Absolutely, 1,000%. There's guys you missed in a draft. There's guys that you had no idea were going to come up. People make stupid drops all the time in leagues because they don't have the patience that they should. So yeah, the waiver wire is essential. The draft is the most important, but the waiver wire is very important as well.
So let's go now. Let's leave the baseball realm and let's go to fantasy football. Is it the same tips, or is fantasy football a little different for you?
Same general tips, but it does have a lot of differences. Things change so quickly in football. That's the thing that's crazy. You can do keepers leagues and such, but especially running backs, like they're not good for a long time. Like if you had somebody who was of the talent level of like a Juan Soto or Ronald Acuna in baseball, like a good running back might only last like 6 or 8 years in the NFL. Like
Mm-hmm.
Acuna and Soto are probably going to play for 20 at
Right.
least. So
Especially
it is.
Soto.
Yes, yeah. I mean so it's definitely a lot different. But my big thing in drafting, and we've never been in a league before, so you're gonna be let into a little bit of my secrets here.
That's what
I've
I'm.
always been a wide.
That
I've
was
always been a wide
this
receiver
whole
guy.
thing. This whole thing was really just so I could get insight into the way you're going to draft tomorrow in our league draft. So.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been a wide receiver guy. I always
Really?
have been.
Wow.
I probably always will be. I've actually had pretty bad running backs for the majority of my fantasy football time. I'm trying to get better at least getting one good running back, but I've always felt that a wide receiver, one, does not get injured as often, and two, is more consistent. Sometimes they'll spend a first round pick or second round pick on a running back and they suck or they get hurt. That happens a lot. And
Mm-hmm.
people are like, oh, yeah, like I lost because my first round pick got hurt. I was like, well, pick a guy that's least likely to get injured. But the thing in fantasy sports is to mitigate your risk. So if you're going to mitigate your risk, maybe you take a challenge on a guy later on in the draft, like the 8th or 10th round, but don't be risky in the first couple of drafts. Pick a guy that you are sure of. They're going to be a sure thing because if you're mitigating that risk, you're going to have a better chance to win. That's just how it's going to go. Like if you're really risky one year, you might be awesome, but then you
Mm-hmm.
might be awful for 3 years
Right.
because you took a chance on too many guys. But the first, that's why I've always been a guy wide receivers. Like if I have a chance, I would much rather have Michael Thomas than a lot of the running backs in the first round because I am confident that Michael Thomas is going to be a top flight wide receiver this year, unless he gets hurt. If he gets hurt, that happens. But I think he's less likely to get hurt than some of the other first round pick running backs.
Do you use any of the sports line stuff? Have you ever used any of that for your drafts, or do you just use other things?
I have sports line sent to my email, so I look at it sometimes. But the mostly how I handle drafts in any sport, baseball or football, is I take a trusted experts top list. For football, it's Matthew Berry.
Mm-hmm.
For baseball, it depends. I change almost every year. But
Your
what I'll do is
it's
I'll
your own
copy it.
list for baseball.
Well, that's what I do. I copy their list and then I make my own list out of that. But I have their list as a guide of where they're at, and then I rearrange them how I feel,
Mm-hmm.
and then I put all of them into a big spreadsheet and I rank them on where I would draft them.
I want to get talking because really, we've talked. I keep calling you a fantasy sports expert, and obviously, your knowledge is clearly there, and I think everyone can see that. But let's talk about your Sports Writers League. So,
Yes.
so tell me about this league.
So this league is pretty complex. I'll try my best to make it somewhat easy to understand. But there is a what the hell was that? Oh, so we got a package. Sorry, everybody on the stream. And JoJo was barking. But yeah, so this league, there's 20 people in the league, which is a very, very big league. And we all have 40-man rosters. You have a 25-man major league team, which used to be the norm in major leagues before things got changed. And then you have a 15-man minor league system. And the minor league people have to be people that have prospect eligibility. Those are the only people that can be on a minor league roster. So you have 40 people that you can roster. So there's 800 people that are rostered in this league, which is crazy, astronomical. And I was able to be signed on as a writer for this league. I haven't written as much as I would like to, but there's a website. It's called Dynasty Guru that I write on from time to time. And I'm in this league with them. And I got kind of a dumpster fire whenever I first got the team. I had Mike Trout and a bunch of scrubs. So I had to draft some guys, and I tried to build from the bottom with prospects. And the team I took over had gotten last place. They got 20th out of 20th the 3 years leading up to me taking over the team. So the team was bad. And then the first year I wanted to make it in the top 15. I was able to do that. I finished 13th in my first year. And then this year I'm currently wavering in between 7th and 8th. And if we had a playoff, which we usually do, but this year we're just doing rotisserie the whole way,
Mm-hmm.
the top 8 would make the playoffs. So if I finish top 8, I feel like I'm a playoff team, and I wanted to be a playoff team within 3 years of taking over this team. So if I finish top 8, I'll actually be a year ahead of schedule, which I would be really excited about.
And that right there is exactly why I'm classifying you as a fantasy expert, because this league, it sounds like, this isn't a league where your friend asked you to, a buddy just is like, oh, you want to come join this league? Maybe it is for you. I don't actually know how you got in. How did you get invited to this league? That's a great question.
Oh, it was so this website was looking for writers, and I submitted a story to them actually about Whit Merrifield, and his fantasy value, and they really liked it, and they asked me to come on and write with them. And then once I got into Slack, they used Slack for all their messaging for that website.
Mm-hmm.
They said they had an opening on the teams, and they said they really liked what I wrote, and they wanted me to be a part, wanted me to take over one of these teams, but they warned me the team was really bad, and I said, yeah, cool, I'll take them.
I love it. You love the confidence there. Is you're just, what, it doesn't matter if the team's really bad. You had to give for across all sports fantasy value, like fantasy draft advice, fantasy management advice. What are your just quick hitting tips that you could give right now on fantasy sports?
Yeah, the first thing I would do is just to like your team. Like guys are always talking about reaching for people, and they don't want to reach for person even though they really like that person. Like do it. If there's guys that you like and guys you enjoy watching, like reaching for them is not a bad thing. You want to the way you play fantasy sports. I think that the two main reasons I play fantasy sports is to stay connected with friends that you might not have as much in common with anymore, which is amazing. That's the number one reason why I play fantasy sports. Gives you something to talk about with those friends. And then number two is to enjoy watching the games. Like if you are a big Chiefs fan, get a player or two from the Chiefs. That way, whenever you watch the game, you can actually like be rooting for your team and be excited to watch your team. Like if you are a big Chiefs fan, pick up Tyreek Hill, pick up Mecole Hardman. That way, if they do something cool in the game, you're super excited about what's going on. You're also able to enjoy the game. And I think that's just really important. I would just get those guys and don't be afraid to reach for people that you enjoy watching, because in the end, it's just an enjoyment thing for you. So just have fun with it.
All right. So first one, like your team. What would if there's another one? What is it?
Another one is to not to trust your gut. If you think a guy has a talent to be a superstar, and nobody else feels that way, screw it. Like if you feel that way, like just go for it. Like don't listen to what other people have to say as much, because you can find anything on anybody. Like you can find pros on a player and cons of a player anywhere you look. So if you feel a certain way about a player, yeah, you can use the quote unquote expert's advice to try to form your opinion. But if you feel a certain way about somebody and you're excited about them, like don't let somebody's other opinion deter you from that. Like if you're a believer in them, believe in them.
Yeah, that's good advice. Um, I like that, man. You got any more? Any more quick hitters for us? Don't.
I would say, what's that?
I was just say don't feel pressured. Like if you don't have any more, then don't. But just this is the part that I'm probably gonna clip out to like show, you know, like the fantasy. This is my fantasy advice to you. This is what you're gonna get out of watching this right here. So you gotta like your team, trust your gut. What else you got?
I would say don't ever take it too seriously as well. I have seen, unfortunately, some relationships actually get deteriorated by fantasy sports. Like, don't ever let that happen. I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen. People get super competitive, and they think that their team is worth a lot, and they say ugly things to people that were their friends. Like, don't ever do that.
No,
Like, it's supposed to be for fun, and you can be really really good at it, but still be complimentary of people in their league when they do something cool. Like, it sucks because you might lose, but also like be excited for the other people in your league. Like, for the most part, unless you play in a really weird league with people that you don't know, these people are going to be your friends, and so like make sure these people stay your friends, and you can still have fun with it and be competitive, but don't do anything that might deteriorate your relationship moving forward.
That's fantastic advice. But I will say, if you come into my league, in my fantasy league, my football league, and you win the first year, we're not friends anymore. So
I'll throw it a championship game.
Okay, there you go. Nick, I do appreciate you coming on the show, man. I know you got a soccer game to get to, so I'm going to let you go here. But, guys, I really appreciate you guys tuning in, too. Thanks for watching. Thanks for sticking with us. Nick, do you have any closing words you want to say?
I just want to let everybody know that they're all wonderful, beautiful people. I appreciate them hopping on here, and have a beautiful, blessed day.